We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Brenda Masson, and this morning we're talking decorating with Jolana Pettifer of Jolana's Exceptional Home Decor. Now, the theme this morning is small changes, big difference. And we spent the first half of the show really talking about the master bedroom because we had a listener who called in and asked specifically about master bedrooms. But I think most of what we talked about can be applied to the entire house, can't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So we talked briefly about a powder room. It's the smallest room in the house usually, but it's the room that's the most used because typically if you have guests, where are they going to go? They're not going to go into your ensuite. Well, sometimes they do, but typically not. So another great opportunity if you're not a wallpaper person, but you want to experiment with wallpapers, wallpaper your powder room.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great...
But wouldn't it have to be a light wallpaper because it's a small space?
Why?
Because otherwise the dark colors make it look small, don't they?
No, absolutely not. There is your one opportunity to actually have some fun and experiment with a color that you might not necessarily use anywhere else in the room.
Okay.
So especially if you've got white trim, doing a navy bathroom, doing a gray bathroom, doing a pink bathroom, doing whatever color you want. It's a way to interject a little bit of your personality into this little room. So great little accent hand towels, for example, is always a great way to add color. So if you're a little leery of putting a color on the actual wall, put it into your hand towels. Doing an amazing mirror. Doesn't have to be just a little framed mirror. Why not do something with some metal or gold or platinum? There are ways to create so much excitement in a powder room. And I know that sounds funny, but trust me, easy, easy, easy. Artwork again. Adding an accent or an accessory, adding an orchid onto your vanity.
Oh, nice.
Right? So you just have to get yourself out of that thought where you have to stay very plain. Why? Do something really fun in that powder room. And I promise you, if you do, people will notice and people will comment on it.
Yeah, and you hope they're commenting in a nice way. I mean, when we bought our house, you've been in my house lots of times.
The terracotta tiles, right?
Yes, but in the powder room, when we first walked in there, we went, oh my goodness. So we commented, but not in maybe a positive way. It has a coral colored toilet with a coral colored pedestal stand basin.
That looks like
a seashell. And a seashell fan around the mirror. Oh my goodness. But you know what? It has become...
It's a charm.
It's funny. And I did a really nice textured Ralph Lauren gray on the walls because the floor was gray, but it didn't match really. And so I didn't have the time or the money at the time when we first moved in to rip everything out. And eventually I would like to redo that whole room. There are no windows. It's very small. But you know what? For now, it's just funny. And the longer I keep that coral color and that seashell sink, it's now retro. Wow, they think we paid extra to get that.
Yeah, and again, light fixtures, vanity lights. That's another opportunity to have a little bit of fun.
And they don't always have to be those stark makeup mirror like round lights.
Oh gosh, no, nobody does that anymore.
That's very, very harsh, I find.
No. You want, especially in a powder room, you want to have the ability to either dim it or have a very soft lighting in there.
Now that's a thing that people don't think about often is dimming the lights in a bathroom.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Yeah, it's really nice. And instead of doing a center vanity light, why not do two longer sconces on either side of your mirror? So again, think outside the box. Sometimes it's really fun to do, and you may not do something really bold in another part of your room, but to have something really fun in your powder room, it is really fun. Kitchens, go out and find an absolutely fabulous clock to put on your wall. It's an easy way to add a little bit of interest.
And clocks are pretty funky right now.
Clocks are wonderful right now. Charcuterie boards, you can get some really beautiful live edge charcuterie boards. I mean, that can become an accent in your room.
It's a beautiful feature. I've seen people lean them up against the wall from the counter, and they look stunning.
Absolutely. Succulents in a kitchen, because they do very well. They don't need to have necessarily a lot of light, but there's usually quite a bit of light in a kitchen. Changing up your pendant lights over your island, if you have an island, or a peninsula, it doesn't matter. Simple ways to make a simple change that's going to make a huge impact.
And those lights have to have a practical vent as well, because you usually are working at a center island.
You do, but in most kitchens you're going to have your undervalance lighting. Most kitchens you are going to have your overhead pot lights. Mm-hmm. So depending on the amount of light that you have for task lighting, your pendants don't necessarily have to have a task lighting function feature to it. Yeah, absolutely. But make sure everything is dimmable, because sometimes you want it on high, and sometimes you just want it to have that very soft lighting.
I remember when we were redoing the kitchen, and you had mentioned that to me, and I thought, why in the heck would I ever want dimmer switches in the kitchen? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can think of it in other rooms, but the kitchen? Yep. Do you know how often I use those dimmer switches? I use them all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And even in a laundry room. Like, there's so many fun things you can do. So a lot of people will have the locker style now. That's been very big for, I would say, 8, 9 years, maybe even 10 years. So going out and finding some great woven baskets to put into your shelves, for example. It looks fantastic. It looks organized, because there's nothing worse than walking into a space where you can see all the stuff that usually ends up in a laundry room, which typically is not very pretty. So you can be very practical, but at the same time have that design element to it. Going to Restoration Hardware or to Upper Canada Hardware and buying some really great hooks to be able to hang your coats up, because we know kids do not open a cupboard, pull out a hanger, put their coat on it, and put it back in the cupboard and close the door. It's just not going to happen. So if you think about it,
kids and husbands, just saying.
Well, that's true too. It is an opportunity to have a little bit of fun. Like, treat it as an accessory. Don't treat it as a hardware piece. Treat it as another accessory within the room. Painting existing cabinets. So you may have had it for a long time and you're tired of the color that it was, the beige or the white or whatever it was. Have some fun with your color. Change it up. Paint it. Not a huge cost, but you'll have a huge gain.
Right.
So it's great things to consider. Your back exit doors, for example, everyone paints white trim, white door. Why? Why not add a color like blackjack or raccoon fur or whatever your
What is raccoon fur?
It's like a charcoal that has a navy undertone.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, it's
that sounds
beautiful.
Like something I would like.
So again, there's ways to add wow factors to an existing space that's just going to make a big difference. Family rooms, same thing. Everything we have just talked about. Maybe taking everything out of the bookshelves that have looked like that for the last 15 years and actually being methodical about where you put your placement of your books. Have some standing, some leaning, some, sideways. Put some of your pieces that you've collected over the years. Tell a story with your bookshelves. That's how you can create again and breathe new life into something that you may have had forever.
And that's a piece of furniture that can be easily painted or repurposed into something else that again, you think you've bought something new when in fact it's the same one.
Yep. Absolutely. Coffee tables. Tired of your coffee table? Paint it. Do something different to it. Add a stone top. There's even projects that you can do if you want to get a great big tray. Like, they're very handy, but they also look really nice on an older coffee table that you're trying to hide. Mm-hmm. Do a nice 30 by 42-inch tray that sits on top of that table that you may not necessarily love, especially right now with that whole kind of barn board look. It looks fantastic, and you've created another element. That's a bit big to be carrying into the kitchen back and forth. It's meant to stay.
Right.
But it just adds that little bit of appeal. And have fun with what you put on your coffee table. Don't keep it junky. Don't. Make it look pretty with books, coffee table books, or a floral, or
the head scratcher.
A metal.
The head scratcher.
Maybe that one can go in a drawer.
Head scratchers.
Oh, my goodness. I don't need to talk about cushions because you all know how I feel about them. I love them, but Again, another
and
fun
you
way to
spend
add
quite a
some
bit of money on
details.
cushions, and I guess it's because it has a good inside, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So-
You can get everything from a Dacron fill, which feels really hard when you sit up against it, to a terraline, which is basically, if you're allergic to down, for example, you're going to use a Suprel or a terraline, which gives you that softness. To, of course, there's all kinds of feather fills, there's down fills, there's blend down fills. So
But
the
when you're
cost is in your fills. Your labor for a cushion can be if it's zippered, can be anywhere from $50 to $65 plus your fabric plus your fill.
When you're customizing
You're customizing.
So if you're
it.
going to a box store, for example, won't mention any names, and you're buying cushions and they're costing you $20, they don't last.
Well, they don't. They usually have very small seams. They usually don't have a zipper. So if they get spoiled or spilled on or what have you, you have to take the whole thing apart in order to have it dry clean, because dry cleaners will not dry clean a cushion with a fill in it.
Right.
And typically what you see is what you get. So if you're trying to make it look a little more personable or have a little more interest to it, I'm not saying that they don't serve their purpose. Absolutely they do. But some people are just looking for what the entire world does not have. They want it to be a little more special. So that's where you're going to be spending a little more money if you're getting into a custom.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're getting into a custom, you could actually choose 2 different patterns, one for winter, one for
we
summer.
do that all the time.
And then
Front, back.
And it's
Yep.
easy to store because you're not storing the whole pillow or the whole cushion.
Yep.
Now, what do you think about having cushions of different sizes and shapes on the same couch? Because now they
can.
are these ones that go just for your lower
Yeah,
back.
so we
and
call that a
things.
kidney cushion. And a very popular look right now is where years ago you would put 2 20 by 20 accent cushion on either side with maybe 2 18 by 18 in front. Let's say it's a 2-seater.
Yep.
Now what they're doing is they're doing a bigger kidney cushion, which would be a little bit higher. So it would be like 20 by, let's say, 24. And then they put a smaller kidney in front, which would be like 15 by 20. So it's kind of, again, it's still your layered look. It's just a very different application. So yeah, you can have some fun with how you choose to arrange your cushions.
Well, one of our listeners actually phoned not to ask a question, but to tell you that on Valentine's Day, just to get that kind of feel, she bought 2 little heart cushions and put them on the
it's fun.
sofa. And she said the difference that it made to the room and really made it decorative and super low cost.
Right. Well, you can even throw that in your master bedroom afterwards.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
so
why
have
not?
fun with it during Valentine's Day, but then put it into the master bedroom. So, yeah, not a huge cost. Like we said, small changes, big difference, big impact. It can be done. I promise you it can be done.
Yeah, and it, like we said, this whole show is small changes making a big difference. Now, we did have a question that I think sort of fits in with today's show about that. I think I can say it on the air. This is a quote from our listener. That god-awful front door mat for the wet boots. Is there anything you can do to make that look a little more pleasant than the old
Sure.
Industrial black
Sure there is.
winter boot look?
Sure there is. So what you have to be careful of when you're going for a seasonal carpet, especially in our climate, we're dealing with salt, we're dealing with water, we're dealing with dirt. So actually think about or consider buying an indoor, outdoor carpet for your front door, because they are available in some pretty great fabrics or fabric patterns and colors. So yeah, 100% you can make your front door look nice if you choose to just do a little bit of looking.
So what would you
and
suggest?
And it's washable.
Then?
Indoor, outdoor is washable,
Is
right?
that? Okay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's a really good.
Yeah.
That's a good feature.
Yep.
So what would you suggest then? Are you trying to cover your whole front entrance with carpets?
No, not necessarily. So here's the rule of thumb. If you are going to be using the front door, when you open your door, you want to make sure you have enough to step a couple of steps, like let's say 3 steps, so you can turn around and close your door and still be on your mat.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're getting one that's 24 inches by 60, well, that's totally useless because, yeah, it's going to catch your first 1.5 steps, but then you're stepping on whatever surface you have beyond that. So just be conscious of what you are putting and where you are putting it.
And pets too. I mean, I bought the black ones that were washable and stick to the floor.
And there are some industrial ones that are still nice. But I've got dogs.
Yeah. Every single dog hair shows on that black carpet, and once it's there, you can't get it out. I mean,
you're actually better with a gray or a charcoal, believe it or not, than a black.
Or a brown, maybe a
depends on your color palette, right?
Yeah. So it's hard with me because you know that I have that terracotta Mexican tile on the floor, and it's hard to match it. You can't match it.
No.
So you got to go with something that's contrasting, I
guess. Even sisals are cleanable and washable too. So
what is the sisal?
The sisal carpet, it's a natural fiber that can be washed as well, and they typically come in, think of straw colors, wheat color. It's kind of that warmer
that sounds nice.
color. So again,
and it matches the dirt.
And it does, you never see anything on it. So, there's lots of great, that's a great...
I'm writing that one down.
And indoor-outdoor carpets, you need to look at those as well, for sure.
Okay. Now, you don't want to spend a fortune on those either because they are going to be having a lot of
traffic.
There's
every price point you can imagine on them. So, just pick your budget and stay within your budget when you're looking.
Okay. All right, so what other things...
question.
We've got a few minutes left, so we have... other things that are going to be small changes but big differences.
Yeah, so like at a front door, since we're there already, in the winter, people usually require some kind of a seat to sit on, to put on or take off their boots. So here's another great little opportunity, whether you have it reupholstered. There's lots of people around that do beautiful reupholstery. Choose a great fabric that's going to add a little bit of interest to that front door. So now it's servicing a function, but it's also giving you a wow look too. So simple way to do it. I don't know if you have room at your entrance to do some kind of a really great console table with a beautiful mirror up above it. If it's a smaller space, mirrors are incredible because they will expand your space. So if it feels small, there's a great opportunity to create space right there. You can add a little lamp to it, so if you don't want to always have your overhead lighting, you can certainly just use a beautiful little candlestick lamp, for example. Adding a great either box or bowl to throw your keys into. It becomes functional as well as decorative. So when you're out looking for things, think about it as a multi-purpose item. Don't necessarily look at it as just an object. And that's how you can, again, add some really fun look to it.
Add some fun look. Now, we were talking at Christmas time, obviously, about wreaths. And we mentioned that perhaps in the wintertime, or you said even into the summer, you can have wreaths on your front door.
Sure you can.
That are not Christmassy.
Yeah, absolutely you can. So what's really nice with wreaths is some people like to do seasonal. So at Easter, they'll put out an Eastery one. But if you kind of like more of a wreath that kind of goes all seasons, or at least 3 seasons plus your Christmas wreath, stay with something that's got more of your green. So like a boxwood wreath, for example, or something that's a little bit wispier but looks more like a branch type wreath. You don't feel like you have to change it. You can always add flowers to it. So in the fall, sunflowers. At Easter time, the more Easter colors in the summer, the peonies can go into it. Obviously, they're artificial, but that is a really great way to, again, add some character to a front door. I love the street appeal. When you go down a street, for sure you will notice the doors where they take that little bit of extra time and effort to create that, isn't that beautiful? And sometimes it is as simple as a wreath, and sometimes people also have urns, etc. But street
and urns
appeal
can be
is
lovely too, and they can be seasonal, can't they?
Sure
or
they
all
can.
season, I mean.
Yeah, sure they can.
Take the sparkly pine cones out and replace them with just a normal pine cone and that kind of thing. And you've changed it into something that looks really nice. Okay. I think we're going through into the summer. We know that you're supposed to, if you are thinking of a renovation and you're listening to this show when it airs in February, please start planning now. If you're not booking your guys now, you're not getting them.
You should already have a contractor.
Yeah.
You should already be talking to them about your vision. because renovations do not happen overnight, especially if there's permits that need to be pulled. It's not a process that happens within weeks.
Right.
It does take months to do.
So bring us up to date on your kitchen reno.
Oh,
Speaking
it's
of that, what stage are you at now?
So countertops are going in this week.
Wow.
So all our faucets can go in after that. And then the week after that will be all our backsplash. So then my hood can be mounted on top of that. My lighting will go in after all the painting is done. So
the hood's going in before the painting?
Close. Yeah.
Okay. Just because I guess of all the work that has to go on behind that.
For the backsplash. Yeah, you can't put that up until backsplash is in. So, yeah, so it's a very, very, very exciting.
So how long do you think it's going to be before it's finished?
I would say by the middle of March, completely finished. So from beginning to end, approximately it has taken us about 8 weeks, which is fairly standard because we did do
quick,
new floors.
I would say.
It is quick, yeah. We quite typically will say count on 10 to 12. As long as everything falls into the place the way it should, it might go to 8 or 9 weeks, but 10 to 12 weeks, believe it or not, is a fairly normal, because once your countertops are measured, you're waiting 2.5 weeks for that countertop to come in, and people forget about that. So everything is pretty much done, and then you are sitting there waiting for 2.5 weeks. That is just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I remember that was one of the first things that the designer for our kitchen talked to us about. She said, get out there, go to the warehouse now and pick out your granite because it's going to take a while for this to get done. So you want to have that in the works while you're doing everything else. If you do it like, that's done, now I'm going to do this, you'll never get it finished.
No, so typically what I do with my clients is we'll have our vision board all put together for the reno. When it comes to the countertops, once all your counters are in, we bring the one that we think we love and just set it with everything in place. So I don't necessarily, I'm not a huge advocate to go out and buy it before your kitchen is installed, because I promise you, once it's in, when most people read a plan, whether it's an elevation drawing or just a bird's eye view, they really don't understand what they're getting until it is in place. And once it's in place, it's very easy to take everything out, look at your colors again, your wall colors, your countertops, your backsplash, your cabinets, and say, yeah, we're definitely on the right track. We're going to stay with this one. So don't stress yourself out so much.
And it's funny. It's almost the opposite of a paint swatch. When the paint swatch comes and it's just this little tiny square, 2x2 square, and you're thinking, and I got to figure out what that's going to look like on a whole wall.
Right on.
The granite, when you go to the manufacturer, you've got these massive slabs of rock.
You do, and it looks very different. It looks very different when you go to like a Stoneworks or Seat and you see these massive slabs. They don't even look like that when you put them in your home.
No, they don't. And the lighting is different because they're up and down.
And you're looking at them vertically
as
opposed
instead
to horizontally.
Of flat. And I was adamant that I wanted Canadian granite. Well, first, Canadian granite is almost not a thing. It's really hard to get, and most of what you get is the black and white spec. Well, I have maple cabinets. The last thing I want is a Dalmatian countertop, which looks really great in certain kitchens, but not in mine. So it was quite the adventure, let me tell you.
It is. I love doing countertops because you can go everything from silestone to quartz to marbles to granites to quartzites. And you have to be careful because, of course, marble is very porous. We still have clients that insist on it because they love the look, but they do understand, you know what, there's a risk.
I've seen a leather countertop, and a leather countertop.
Love them.
They look beautiful,
especially
but don't be cutting. Don't be cutting on them. They're not as durable, but they look fantastic.
They do.
And you can't stop touching it.
I know. Has a great feel to it. So so I hope everyone is getting some ideas from today's show.
I think they will.
Because there are very easy cosmetic solutions to your design dilemmas that's going to give you the wow.
Absolutely. Well, Jolana, we're out of time. This happens to us all
Every
the time. So thank you so much for coming in. We will be continuing with our discussions. So people who have never listened to the show before, you might want to go to the website, freshwaves.ca, and go back and listen to some
of the podcasts.
interviews with Jolana and find out some interesting tidbits. We will be going into our spring topics shortly, because although it doesn't feel like spring in March, it is. And we've got to start getting ourselves ready for that summertime. And if you're going to be selling your house, we're going to talk about curb appeal and how to make yours the house that gets sold over the identical house next door that just doesn't look the same as yours.
No.
All those kinds of fun
things. And there's
things.
a big difference between staging for selling and staging for living. So that might even be kind of a fun thing to venture into as well.
Yeah. I love having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming in. Jason, thanks for all your help behind the board. Jason Rumble, our technical producer today. And of course, Ivan Harris, Man About Town. You've been listening to Fresh Waves, and we will be back another time with more great information.
I can't wait.
Always check us out. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Brenda.